After 40 years in the desert, Moses, the pillar of a nation, was gone. A new leader, Joshua, was now tasked with the impossible, leading a nation of nomads into a land of giants and fortified cities. His only weapon? Unwavering faith. He was born a slave in Egypt, his name originally Hoshi, which means salvation. But Moses, seeing the Spirit in him, renamed him Yahoshua, Joshua, meaning Yahweh is salvation. This wasn't just a name change, it was a prophecy. It was a declaration that all of Joshua's victories wouldn't come from his own strength, but from God fighting the battle for him. From the shadow of the greatest prophet to the forefront of a divine war, this is the story of how one man's relentless trust in God carved out a home for his people. So how does a man, once a mere attendant, step into the shoes of a legend and lead a nation to fulfill a promise centuries in the making? The answer isn't in military strategy, but in radical obedience. Joshua's story doesn't start with a crown or a command. It starts in service. For 40 years, he was Moses' faithful right hand, a constant presence who, as scripture says, would not leave the tent. This tent was the center of communion with God, and in that quiet space, Joshua's character was forged. He wasn't Moses' son, but his loyalty was absolute. He was there when Moses received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai and was there to witness the people's betrayal with the golden calf. Being so close to both divine glory and human failure gave him a rare perspective. He understood the holiness of God and the weakness of the people he would one day lead. His first real test came long before he took charge. He was chosen as one of 12 spies sent to scout the Promised Land. 10 came back with terrifying stories of giant warriors and unbeatable cities. Their report was so full of fear it made the hearts of the Israelites melt. But Joshua, along with his friend Caleb, saw something else entirely. They didn't see the obstacles, they saw the promise. They begged the people to trust God, declaring that if the Lord was pleased with them, He would deliver the land into their hands. It was a report of faith against a chorus of fear. For that courage, God rewarded them, of their entire generation, only they would live to enter the Promised Land. Then, the day came. Moses died atop Mount Nebo, looking out over the land he could never enter. The nation was adrift, mourning its leader. The full weight of leadership fell upon Joshua. God himself confirmed the transfer of power, speaking directly to Joshua not with gentle comfort, but with a firm, repeated command, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." This was his challenge: lead a grieving nation against enemies they feared, all while living up to the legacy of Moses. He was no longer the assistant, he was the instrument of God's promise. With the mantle of leadership on his shoulders, Joshua's first command from God was a massive test of faith. The Israelites stood at the banks of the Jordan River, which was raging at flood stage. The promised land was right there, but the way was blocked. No bridges, no boats. God's instruction wasn't practical, but spiritual. He told the priests to carry the Ark of the Covenant and walk straight into the water. The moment their feet touched the river's edge, the waters upstream miraculously stopped flowing. They piled up in a heap far away, and the riverbed turned to dust. The entire nation of Israel walked across on dry ground, a powerful echo of the Red Sea crossing, proving to everyone that the same God who was with Moses was now with Joshua. Once across, they faced their first target, the formidable, double-walled city of Jericho. The city was on lockdown, its gates barred, its people certain of their defenses. Any normal military plan, a siege, ladders, tunneling, would have been a long, bloody affair. But God's battle plan was unlike any in history, designed to show that this victory would be his and his alone. For 6 days, God told Joshua to have the army march around the city once a day, led by priests blowing ram's horns. They were to march in total silence, the only sound being the blast of the shofars. You can imagine the soldiers questioning the logic, and the people of Jericho watching in confusion. On the 7th day, they were to circle the city 7 times. After the last lap, the priests would sound one long, final blast, and the entire nation would let out a single, unified shout. Imagine the tension of that final circuit. The silent marching, the ark held high. Then, the signal. A massive shout rose from thousands of throats, a sound of faith unleashed. At that moment, the colossal walls of Jericho didn't just crumble, they fell down flat. The Israelites charged straight in. The gateway to Canaan was conquered not by might, but by a miracle. The only survivors were Rahab, the woman who had hidden the spies, and her family, her act of faith marked by a scarlet cord in her window. The fall of Jericho was a clear statement. The conquest of Canaan wasn't a human project, but a divine campaign won through obedience. The victory at Jericho sent a shockwave of fear through Canaan. But the path forward wasn't perfect. A defeat at the smaller city of Ai was a harsh reminder that victory depended on Israel's complete obedience. One man's sin in stealing forbidden items from Jericho had broken their covenant with God and led to failure. Only after that sin was dealt with could Israel move forward in victory again. The lesson was clear: their success was directly tied to their faithfulness. In the campaigns that followed, Joshua led the Israelites in a series of decisive victories, defeating 31 kings and their armies. These weren't random fights, but a systematic conquest of the land God had promised. The Bible tells of incredible moments, including one battle where Joshua prayed for the sun and moon to stand still to give them enough daylight to crush their enemies. And God listened. The sun stood still in the sky, proving that the Lord himself was fighting for Israel. With the major wars over, Joshua's role shifted from general to administrator. His new job was just as huge, dividing up the conquered land among the 12 tribes of Israel. This wasn't just drawing lines on a map, it was the fulfillment of the promise made to Abraham centuries before. Joshua meticulously recorded these tribal allotments, ensuring each family received its inheritance from God. Finally, a generation born in the wilderness had a home. The scripture says, "So the land finally had rest from war." The triumph was complete. The story of Joshua is a powerful testament to what faith and obedience can achieve. If this story inspired you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the narratives of the Bible. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss what's next. And please, share this with someone who might be facing their own Jericho and needs a reminder that faith can make walls fall. As Joshua grew old, he gathered the leaders of Israel one last time. He didn't come to brag about his victories, but to remind them where their strength came from. He stood before them as a living witness to God's faithfulness. "You have seen all that the Lord your God has done," he said. "It was the Lord your God who fought for you." He reminded them that not a single one of God's good promises had failed. Everyone had come true. His farewell address was both a celebration and a serious warning. He urged them to hold tight to God, to love Him, and obey His laws. He warned them not to mix with the surrounding nations or their false gods, because that would be a trap that would lead to their ruin. Then, in his final recorded words, Joshua laid down a challenge that echoes through history. He didn't command them, he gave them a choice. "If you don't want to worship the Lord," he said, "then choose today who you will worship." He called on them to put away the idols of their ancestors and commit completely to the one true God who had given them everything. And in that defining moment, Joshua made his own declaration, a statement of personal conviction that became his legacy: "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Joshua died at the age of 110. He started as Moses' assistant and ended as the servant of the Lord, the same title given to his great mentor. His life proved that a journey that starts in humble obedience can lead to an extraordinary triumph. His legacy isn't just in the land he conquered, but in the choice he presented, a choice that every person, in every generation, has to make for themselves.